Hi, welcome back to my channel. My name's Carter Walker. I love talking about movies, music, comics, and games. And I just got out of Evil Dead Rise, and it was something, man. It was something, and I wanted to talk about it because I love the Evil Dead franchise. The first Evil Dead, directed by Sam Raimi, is one of my favorite movies of all time. Easily, like, one of my top horror movies. How to, like, expertly craft something that's just super low budget and yet something that just works so well with such a simple story. It, like, revitalized, popularized, like, the cabin in the woods genre, you know, that so many movies get spun off of. I just whacked my mic. So many movies that get spun off of and get, like, you know, made nowadays are just focusing on, like, the feeling of isolation that I think that the first Evil Dead just does so well. And this may be controversial. I'm not the biggest fan of Evil Dead 2. I still think it's a great movie. I just definitely prefer the first one. Army of Darkness is its own thing to me. And then the Evil Dead remake from 2013 from Fede Alvarez is... oh, wow, it's just, like, on another level. It's 100% extremely over the top, super gory, one of, like, the most, like, gross out movies I've ever seen. I enjoy it to a certain extent. I can really only watch it probably once every few years. Like, I've seen it, like, twice, 2 or 3 times, and I think I'm done, like, for life, for the next 10 years. It's just something that I can only take so much of, and so going into this Evil Dead Rise, I was excited. And I was a little nervous because it's made from a different creative team. They have Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell coming back as executive producers, but it's a different creative team than the older ones or the 2013 one. So, with that being said, how does it hold up? Let's get right into it. So starting out with the positives of Evil Dead Rise is I think it's extremely well made. The director and writer, Lee Cronin, does a great job of making this movie feel very isolated. Even though it has a very different setting from the other Evil Dead movies, you know, going to like a high-rise skyscraper in the city, it still manages to capture that feeling of isolation that the Evil Dead franchise does so well. And it manages to kind of still instill that fear, but also make it creative. You know, it uses other tools, other weapons at the disposal that people in apartment high-rises would have. Also focuses on other issues that they would have. You know, instead of having to find a bridge or a way out, they have to find stairs or an elevator and take those out, and you're very trapped, you're very isolated. And so that aspect of the movie I really enjoyed, and the director does a great job of keeping the shots like close and compact. And there's a lot of really great creative shots here, a lot of great close-ups on people's faces. Very well done where, you know, it zooms in on the graphic carnage, but other than that, it kind of pulls back a little bit and only zooms in when you see reactions. And so when it pulls back, you're able to see kind of the vast openness of this area or how cramped it is, and just there's nowhere for them to run. And I really enjoyed that. I thought that was a very creative choice, very well done as well, and he pulls it off greatly. I thought the performances were spectacular, particularly Alyssa Sutherland as Ellie. She plays the woman that's mainly possessed in the trailer. She's the main deadite of the movie. Not too much of a spoiler since it's featured in all the posters, marketing, trailers. I thought that she did an incredible job of playing someone who is like so warm and loving to her children, and you can tell that she cares about them. And then as soon as that deadite switch is flipped on, it's extremely terrifying. All of her dialogue is like so menacing, and there's a great sequence that's in the trailer where she's locked out of the apartment. The daughter, Cassie, is looking through the peephole of the apartment and just kind of watching her, you know, having a conversation with her. And the actress Alyssa Sutherland just does a fantastic job of pulling off that terrifying look of just like that smile and that grin, dead-eyed stare. And the makeup is phenomenal in this movie as well. The effects are great. It pulls off to be a great sequence, very tension-filled, and I thought it was one of the standouts in the movie. Another great performance in this movie is Lily Sullivan as Beth. She plays like the main heroine in the movie. She's like the Ash or the Mia. I believe it's Mia from the one that Jane Levy played in the 2013 movie. Like the main character, the main heroine, and she does an exceptional job here. She plays someone who is going through her own struggles, has her own life, but is very, you know, headstrong, very confident, but also has that motherly side of her. So when things go sideways, she's the one that's like taking care of the kids and watching over them. And I thought she did a great job. There's a really good emotional core in the movie, some stuff in here that I didn't expect that ties the whole family theme together. And I thought that was very good. I really enjoyed how different it is because, you know, in the other Evil Dead movies, it's like isolation and friendship and like brother, sister. This time it's a whole family. And so it focuses a lot on that and the themes of that, which I thought were exceptional. Also, I said this before, that the makeup and the effects in this movie are incredible. I think that everything just looks phenomenal, and when the blood starts pouring, it looks fantastic. They mentioned in interviews that they use like gallons of blood in this movie, and you can tell it definitely pays off. Everything looks very realistic, very well done, and when they use creative instruments of harm, I don't know how else to phrase that. It looks fantastic. You know, there's cheese grater, there's glass, there's guns, knives, everything like. There's tattoo guns, and it goes on, and it's just like gruesome. It's graphic, and it makes you wince. This is a movie that does not pull any punches, especially when it comes to violence against everybody. Everyone gets rocked in this movie, regardless of age or gender, and equal rights, equal fights for everybody in this movie, I guess. Someone said that in the theater, and it had everyone in the theater dying. But yeah, everyone gets rocked in this movie regardless, and it gets off to an incredible start. The opening sequence is visceral. It had me like wincing. I was like, oh gosh, And I love the title. The title sequence is incredible. It had like a very just menacing effect to it. Such a random positive to throw out, but I thought it was great. The music is great. Pretty much everything in this movie is fantastic. It's phenomenal. It's very visceral, very gruesome, very gory. I don't know what else to say for the positives. It's extremely well made. The pacing is very well done. The kills are great. The story is good. The characters are good. Maybe not as memorable as anyone like Ash, but I don't know how you can really beat Ash. Ash is so great. He's classic. But they do a great job of what they're given, and they do something very different, so it's not more of the same. It's not someone trying to be, Ash Light, Ash Jr. It's different. It's Beth. It's Cassie. Very different people in this scenario. And I always enjoy seeing how the lore will play out, and the lore of the Book of the Dead in this movie is very well done. Going into my mixed here, there's really not a lot here for me. Maybe sometimes the tone is a little off. It's very menacing, very brutal, like the 2013 film, but with a little sprinkle of humor in there thrown in, like the 87 Evil Dead 2. Which was great. I love humor in movies, especially in horror movies. I think they can make it work. There's a few sequences here that were just like very brutal, very visceral, and there's like a joke or two thrown in or something that made me laugh, and I was like, oh. And that's just Evil Dead. You take it and you love it. If you love it, you love it. If you don't, you don't. I'm someone that loves it, so it didn't bother me a ton. It was just like literally like one or two lines that kind of pulled me out a little bit. Other than that, maybe in the beginning, the first third, after the opening sequence, the pacing does take a bit to get started. Once it gets started, though, and heads start rolling, it's all in, man. It's 100% all in. Finally, for my negative, it's something that's only for me. I don't see it really for anyone else. I mean, if it happens to you, then you relate. But it's something, like I said in the beginning, the first Evil Dead, so rewatchable. It's so great. It's brutal. It's violent. But it's something that you can rewatch. Evil Dead from 2013 just has this tone that's so dark and brutal. It's so over the top, just with all this violence and self-mutilation, and it's just so much to take in. And it's awesome. When I'm in that mood for it, which again is like once every few years, I'm really into it. And I'm like, wow, this movie is so over the top. It's so violent. It just really goes for it, and I appreciate it. But it's something that I can't rewatch constantly. And, not being able to rewatch a movie kind of takes its score down a little for me. So while I did really enjoy this movie, I loved this movie. I thought it was great. Walking out, I only heard positive things about it. If you see the trailer and you're going into an Evil Dead movie, you're going to love this movie. I don't see anyone having any issues with it. It's a classic Evil Dead. There's a ton of great references, Easter eggs, well being its own thing. But it's just more along the lines of Evil Dead 2013 than anything Sam Raimi did. It's got all the gore and the gruesome violence against people in this movie that the 2013 movie had, and just everyone takes an unbelievable amount of punishment, creative ways just to hurt people in like these excruciating ways. And if you're someone that's like, I can watch this all day, man, go ahead. I'm sure you'll love it. I loved this movie, but again, it's not very rewatchable. I can't see myself being like, I'm going to put this on again, because there's just so much in here that I'm not going to want to watch again. Again, that's what I'm getting into. I know what I'm getting into when I go see an Evil Dead movie, especially one that's come out in the last, 10 years. They market it as that. They're not lying about it. So it's just something to keep in mind. Something that for me will bring my score down just a little bit. I'm still very positive on this movie, but just a heads up. Overall, guys, Evil Dead Rise was one of my most anticipated movies of the year, and it did not disappoint. It is every bit as bloody, as brutal, mean, and darkly funny as I was hoping it would be. There's a bunch of creative kills in here. The pacing is fantastic. Score is great. Performances are incredible. Everything here that you want from an Evil Dead movie is here. I can't recommend it enough. If you're into this thing, you will love it. Overall, I'm going to give it about an 8.5 out of 10. just not very rewatchable for me because of how over the top and dark and mean it is. However, when I am in the mood for it, which I'm sure I will be, it is definitely one for the books. So yeah, that's my review. Have you seen Evil Dead Rise? If so, what did you think about it? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Did you throw up at all? I was kind of worried there for a few scenes that I would lose my lunch. It was pretty gnarly, but what else can you expect? But yeah, guys, stay tuned. I am still editing my big social network review. I don't have any classes for the rest of the semester, so I will get right on that. And in the meantime, as always, I'm Carter Walker, and have a great rest of your day.